All right. I hope some of the parents join.
Okay, we're live, so just FYI, I'm gonna turn my camera off and
Oh,
mute.
let me put myself on mute. All right. I hope some of the parents join.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Continental Colony's Return to Learn plan. Today we'll discuss, if you were able to watch the board meeting, you've heard the change in plans for the reopening and those students who are eligible to return on October 26th. So we'll go through specifics for Continental Colony and general district information this afternoon. So I want to first thank everybody for tuning in. We are recording this session and we will post it on all of our social media outlets. So if you missed anything or if you want to share with a friend that may not be able to attend now, please let them know that the recording will be available on Class Dojo as well as all of our social media outlets. All right, so first let's take a look at the timeline for reopening. So on October 5th, if you were able to tune in, you were able to hear Dr. Herring's plan for return to learn for APS. And so today we are going over the reopening plan for APS as well as specifics for Continental Colony. You received a survey last week, parent intent to return survey. That survey is due on the 12th. So through that survey, and we'll talk about your options today so you can make a knowledgeable decision for your student to either stay virtual or return face-to-face or to attend Atlanta Virtual Academy. And then October 21st, when I talk about our plan, you'll learn that Wednesdays will be asynchronous for all students. So October 21st is our first asynchronous day. So during that time, we will not have live sessions. All students will work asynchronously, independently at their homes. And so students should complete their content playlist and submit the evidence of learning in order to be marked present. So that's beginning Wednesday, October 21st. And then October 26th, all returning students will report to CCES and all students will begin the new master schedule. So we'll talk about that as well. I forgot to mention that if you have any questions as I move through this presentation, please put them in the comment section and Mr. Gomillion will field those questions. So again, any questions as I move through this session, please make sure you put them in the comment section so we can address your questions. So again, this is the reopening timeline. Again, I just want to reiterate, everyone should complete that parent intent to return survey by October 12th. If you do not complete that survey, then you do have to remain in the virtual environment for the rest of this quarter. And then October 21st, our first day of asynchronous, that's a Wednesday, that will be new, where students are asynchronously working on Wednesdays. And then October 26th is the day we will begin our new schedules and we will communicate that to every family. Our new schedule for learning and all students who have chosen to return will report on October 26th. So again, you received that reopening survey and we just please ask you to take that survey. All students that are eligible to return to school on the 26th are students with disabilities attending low incidence programs, including our regional and self-contained classes, and elementary students in our traditional APS schools, pre-K through 5. So that's all students are our building are eligible to return. So we do ask that you complete that survey by October 12th. So I'll start with the three options. So the three options for return to learn, as a parent, you'll be asked to choose one of the following options. So the first option is virtual school with your school. So that's basically the situation you are in now. The only thing that will change for this virtual will be the virtual schedule. We will move to the same master schedule we follow when we're face-to-face. So if you are uncomfortable with sending your students back to school at this time, you do have the option to remain virtual. Students, then you also have the option to have your student return face-to-face in-person school. And we'll talk about what that looks like because it is very different from what we all know school to look like when we were back in January and February of 2020. And then your third option is Virtual Academy with Atlanta Virtual Academy. So I'll go through each of these options. And this all begins, your choice begins October 26th. So it begins at the beginning of the second quarter. So the first model is the virtual model. And this is best for students who thrive through continued relationships with their home school. And it's best for families who would like to maintain their connection with their enrolled school, have students available online during traditional hours, and who want to commit for the remainder of the semester to virtual learning. Okay, and what should you expect? Just like you're doing now, the student logs in, receive instruction taught by a teacher from their home school on the following days: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Independent practice and instruction is available on Wednesday and serves as an intervention day and/or academic support day. For elementary schools, the virtual day for all pre-K through 5 students will go from 8 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. For middle schools, 9:05 to 4:05 p.m. In high schools, 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And then additional supports in this environment are online tutorial supports, interventions as needed, and access to teachers during established hours. So again, that's the first option, is basically to remain where you are now. However, that schedule, your virtual schedule, will change to that 8 o'clock to 2:30 timeframe. In a day in the life of a student learning at home, basically, like I stated before, is currently what you're doing now. The student logs in to receive real-time instruction from a teacher on Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Wednesdays, remember, are for that independent practice. So on Wednesdays, this serves as an intervention day and academic support for individual students. And then access to the teachers, in this environment, you have access to teachers during their established office hours. For in-person at your school, this is best for students who need face-to-face physical interaction with teachers and students. This is for students who are more comfortable with the face-to-face reinforcement and support. And this is best for families who feel comfortable sending their students back to school, have students who can attend school physically during instructional hours or traditional hours, and who can commit to the in-person learning model for the rest of the first semester. And so what should you expect in this environment? For elementary schools, this starts pre-K through 5. So for us, it'll start October 26th. For middle schools, it will start November 16th, and high schools, November 16th. And the days of the week, again, students at all levels attend school face-to-face Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And independent practice, again, just like virtual, will remain on Wednesdays. And then elementary schools, we're following that 8 o'clock a.m. to 2:30 schedule. And some of the health and safety and well-being initiatives that are being put in place for face-to-face are screening measures, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes, PPE equipment, facilities cleaning, transportation safety, nutrition, student supports, specials and electives, after-school care, and we'll move into specifics for that in just a minute. And so a day in a life for a student that is going face-to-face, the students complete the screening protocol at home. So we'll go over a protocol that all families will need to do before their child gets on the bus or gets in the car to come to school. They get on the bus or come to school wearing their mask. Students enter through a assigned door. So we'll go over those specifics for Continental Colony. And again, they're wearing their mask. Teachers and students and teachers will wear masks at all times, and student and teacher will have limited contact. So again, they're required to wear their masks. Of course, when they're eating, they will not be. And then we will have a space in there where they can get fresh air breaks as well. Students sit in assigned spaces, they will eat breakfast and lunch in the room, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, and they'll remain in that same class all day. And all students, which we'll talk about in a minute, will have their own materials. Students will have school-wide designated restroom breaks. Students will move through hallways with their classes, not individually, and students will leave the building through designated doors. And so for both of these models, that Wednesday is asynchronous. So what should this look like for students and teachers? So teachers will create and assign lessons that address previously taught content. And this will be accessible via Google Classroom, Nearpod, Seesaw, Freckle, all of our outlets that we're currently using. And our focus will be on that content playlist that I keep talking about on morning announcements every morning. So students will work through that playlist. Teachers will identify what learning opportunities they have on that playlist, any of the practice opportunities, as well as the evidence of learning. So on Wednesday, students will engage in their playlist as designated by their teacher. Instruction on Wednesday. So we are asking that students use this time to actually work through those playlists. So pre-K, at least an hour on Wednesdays of independent study. K through 2, at least 2 hours, and 3 through 5, at least 3 hours. And so expectations for families are to ensure students assess the assigned independent work via the learning platform. So boys and girls will take their computers back home on Wednesdays and use those computers or iPads to make sure they're able to do that asynchronous work. We're asking families to also monitor their student engagement. We know some boys and girls can be on the computer, but we need to do some check-ins to make sure they are actually doing the work and not on some other platform. Check that the independent work is completed, and then potentially provide guidance or like read alouds, or if they have questions, to the lower grades. And of course, our teachers will be available during office hours on Wednesdays for support as well. The third model is virtual in Atlanta Virtual Academy. So this is best for students who work well and thrive in a virtual environment, and it's best for families who can commit to virtual learning for the remainder of the semester. And so what you should expect in this model is the student logs in and receive instruction taught by a certified AVA teacher Monday through Friday. So it will not be a teacher from Continental Colony, it will be a teacher from the Atlanta Virtual Academy. During class time, students are able to meet virtually with classmates, participate in activities, and build relationships with their peers and teachers. And additional supports in this environment are online tutorial support, interventions as needed for social and emotional supports, and access to teachers during live instruction and established office hours. So again, those are the three models, virtual, face-to-face, as well as Atlanta Virtual Academy. Now we'll move into some specifics for just Continental Colony. How will morning arrival look?
All right, good afternoon, parents. So I'm going to go over morning arrival, and I will just kind of go over generalizations just so you guys can be aware of the steps that we're taking at Continental Colony to be sure that, you know, everyone is safe under the conditions that we're in right now. So morning arrival, so only faculty, staff, and students will be able to enter the building. Okay, so at this time, parents, unfortunately, we are not letting any parents in. So faculty and staff, they will enter through the front door of the building, and then all students will enter down at the cafeteria at the bottom parking lot. So all faculty and staff will have their temperatures taken upon entry into the building. So you know, just rest assured that anytime someone comes into the building, they will have daily temperature checks. That goes as well as to teachers, our custodians, cafeteria staff, anyone who enters the building will have daily temperature checks. And so when students are getting off the buses and when students are getting out of your cars, however they get home, however they come into the building, they too will have daily temperature checks. Okay. So all students will enter from the back of the building. So parents, if you're driving a car or whether your child gets to school through car or van, they will come through that back parking lot through the cafeteria area. Parents or guardians who arrive after 8:30 will buzz the front office through the front door and wait for an office staff member to take the student's temperature. So if you come after the 8:30 time, you can come up to the front, ring the buzzer, and you know, we will let your child in. Again, parents, unfortunately at this time, will not be allowed into the building, but we will take your child and take their temperature as they are entering through the building. Bus students will enter through the gymnasium door. So I'm pretty sure you guys know where our gym is. So in the morning when the buses get here, those students will be entered through the door near the gymnasium. And again, all temperatures will be taken as the students come in. Car riders and van riders will enter through the cafeteria door. And as students enter the building from a car or bus, they will remain in a single file line on the red 6-foot reminder circles until a staff member tells them to enter for their temperature check. So these are just some measures that we're taking where we will have designated symbols on the floor to kind of show students where to stand, just so that we can be sure that we can socially distance as much as possible to keep your child safe and to keep us safe as well. All faculty and staff and students will walk in one direction throughout the building, remaining on the 6-foot red foot reminder circles. And I'll go over what that means specifically on the next slide. Now, lunch and breakfast. We will not be using our cafeteria for lunch and breakfast. Okay, breakfast and lunch will be held in the teachers' rooms. Okay, so pretty much when students come to the building and they in their rooms, they will remain in their rooms until the end of the day. Okay, so for safety, of course, for obvious safety reasons, breakfast and lunch will be in the teacher's homeroom. Okay, so parents, this is a map of the school. Okay, so when you come into the front of the building, if you look, excuse me, if you look at the right side of the square, you'll see a star. Okay, and that's the front entrance of the building. That's normally where you come in through the front. Okay, and if you look at the arrows going around, okay, those are our hallways. You have hallway 1 and hallway 2. Okay, if you see the arrows going in one direction, that is the direction in which all students will travel at all times throughout the school. And the reason that we're doing this is, so that students will not be walking down opposite sides of the hallway. We feel that if direction is flowing in one direction, then there'll be less chance for students colliding into each other, and less of a chance for problems with distancing. So again, when students enter the building, they will be going in one direction, even if their room, even if it makes sense to go the opposite way because their room may be closer. We still aren't doing that. We're gonna have staff in place throughout the building as your students come in, as your children come in. They'll be placed in the building, throughout the building, to kind of show students where to walk throughout the building, just so that we can all, again, practice social distancing.
Okay, so I'll talk about some during instruction procedures that we are putting in place. So again, only faculty, staff, students who are documented in the reopening plan to be in each classroom can enter that classroom. Approximately 13 to 16 students will be in each classroom with desk shields. So again, in the plan, we as the survey results are rolling in, we are designating who will be in what classroom. And only that cohort, including the teacher, no other teachers can enter that classroom, no other students can enter that classroom. Students will use their own supplies in their learning bin. Students will take home devices and needed supplies each Tuesday for Wednesday asynchronous learning. All other days, materials and devices remain at school. So again, homework will definitely look different because of this, but we are asking students do not need to bring their book bags to school every day. Everything that they'll have will have a little learning bin or a learning Ziploc bag at every student's desk with pencils, paper, everything they need for the day. Now, we do need those returning students to bring back their Eureka workbooks, as well as any of the workbooks for ELA, because they'll need those for the remaining module. However, there's no need to bring supplies back and forth. We'll just ensure that everybody has their own bin on their desk so they can use only their materials each day. And then on Tuesday, they'll bring home those iPads or computers so they can make sure they can engage in the asynchronous learning on Wednesdays when they're doing their independent study. Students will remain in the same classroom the entire day. If there's a need in the classroom, the teacher will use that office help button to request assistance. Students will not be sent on errands or to the front office. So again, we've communicated to staff that students must remain in the room at all times. And if they need any assistance, they'll radio for us or the front office to let us know what assistance they need. And again, for specials, it will be live streamed into the classroom. They will not go into the specials classroom. Classes will take structured restroom breaks with only one student entering the restroom at a time based on the school-wide restroom schedule. So we'll have a restroom schedule where classes are going at least 4 times a day. But in the event that there is an emergency, every student in their learning bin will have a stop sign. So if I have an emergency and I need to go to the restroom, I'll go to the restroom with my stop sign. Now, if I come to the restroom and there's already a stop sign on the door, I have to wait for whoever's in there to come out. And then once it's my turn to go in, I put my stop sign on the door so everyone else knows they cannot come in. So again, this is something we'll have to communicate to our students and practice with our students so they know whenever you see that stop sign, you cannot go into the restroom. And for instruction will be supported in 2 types of environments. And this is intended on the final number of students returning. So one type of environment that I'll show you will be a live streaming environment where the classroom teacher is either teleworking, so the teacher may be live streaming from home, or they may be sitting in the classroom with the students, teaching them and live streaming with students at home. If the teacher is teleworking, there'll be a monitor in the classroom. So if the teacher is still at home teleworking, then there will be someone in the classroom with the students, but the students will essentially be getting their lessons via that live stream. The other situation would maybe a face-to-face instruction with the classroom teacher. So this is your typical face-to-face classroom, and this is what we are shooting for, and with no live streaming. And so, of course, it'll be the typical situation where the teacher's in the room teaching. However, of course, like I stated before, we'll only have about 13 students in the classroom, everybody 6 feet apart, including the teacher with desk shields. And with this second environment, which we know is the best environment for kids to thrive, there will be some shifting. So there will have to be some shifting of students, and there will have to be some shifting of teachers. And Mr. Gomillion will talk about when that will be communicated to you, but we would definitely let you know once we get all of the data back on Monday night. We'll be giving you a call next week to let you know you chose face-to-face and this is how it will look for your child, or you chose virtual and this is how it will look for your child. So in these two environments, that first live streaming environment, the teachers in the front with the computer will have iPads so they can see the kids at home. And then the kids are still there in the classroom as well. So the kids at home will still be live streaming into the teacher's lesson that is in the classroom. And then the second environment may be just our normal face-to-face. Of course, not normal because everyone will be 6 feet apart, but we may not have to live stream into some of those classrooms. And now Mr. Gomillion will talk about dismissal.
Okay, parents, just FYI, I see the questions coming up in the chat. I have addressed a few, but there are a few that we're going to wait to the end just so that everyone can be clear on everything. So just know I am recording them and we will get to your questions. Okay, so dismissal. So at the end of the day, the first bullet says early dismissal ends at 1:45, no exceptions. So mom and dad, if you plan to come and get your child early, you have to do it before 1:45. Okay, if you call after 1:45, you know they're gonna have to be dismissed just like everyone else at that 2:20 mark. Okay, so we're gonna be very, very strict on that time. So again, 1:45. If you call before then, no problem. But after that, if we can't allow it, and that is just to cut down on the confusion of when we're dismissing. And so we like for our dismissals to be orderly, and we can't really have any last minute last minute changes when it comes to children. It's for their safety. All right, so car riders and van riders will be called to the cafeteria by grade level, starting at 2:20. So again, at the end of the day, we will have people in the hallways, staff in the hallways, ushering students to their different locations. And we will, and still at wherever their location is, which is the cafeteria for car riders and car riders and van riders, we will still in the cafeteria have staff there that will be enforcing social distancing. Okay, Kids are Special, if you elect to be in the Kids are Special after school program, they will be called to the gymnasium, which is where they will be held at 2:30. Bus riders. So bus riders will be called grade level at a time, starting at 2:40, and the buses will be escorted by their teachers. So the buses will be the last ones to be called, okay, after the car riders and van riders. And so we will wait till the buses are here. And so once buses are here, all teachers will do is simply escort them down to their buses, and students will get on their buses from there. So there won't be any waiting around for the buses, any crowds forming. So again, we're doing everything that we can to be sure that traffic stays moving and there is no gathering of crowds anywhere in the building. All students will walk in one direction with a hall monitor every 20 feet to ensure social distancing is in place. And again, as I showed you on that map, all of the arrows go in one direction to be sure that everyone is walking in one direction for everyone's safety. Now, those of you whose students or whose children rode the bus, you probably are familiar with what we call lanyards. And what those are they're pretty much a kind of like a necklace that goes around the student's neck to show which bus they ride. And that was kind of like a checks and balances system for our sake, so that we'd be sure that students were on the bus and they were accounted for. Well, we won't be using that this year for obvious reasons. We don't want to, have too many things that we all have to touch. So we won't be using those. And so each mode of transportation will have a clipboard with student names. So as your child is entering the bus or boarding the bus, there will be someone at the bus checking the names of every student who is supposed to be on that bus. Now, parents, you will be receiving a phone call from your teacher, from your homeroom teacher, and they will be asking you some questions about how your child will be getting to school each day and how they will be getting home. And from that's when where we will compile our bus list to decide, to be sure that students are getting on the right bus and that we can check to see who's on the bus and who's not each day. Next slide. Okay, again, just as a reminder, this is a direction of the hallway. Now, those parents, if all the parents who've been in that building know that in the hallway, there are certain points in the hallway where you can cut through, and we will have those blocked off. We will have those roped off throughout the day so that, again, everyone is going around in one direction and not opposite directions.
All right, so now
Okay.
I'm moving to.
Well, I wanted to address the buses.
Okay.
So I did see a few questions in the chat about the buses. So let me speak to that. Let me speak to that briefly. Okay, so students will be required to wear a mask on the bus. Okay, bus operators will have additional masks to provide students in case students don't have them. Buses will be cleaned and approved, will be cleaned with approved cleaning products before students are dropped off and after students are dropped off, okay? Students will be loaded from the back of the bus to the front of the bus in order to avoid students passing by each other, okay? So, and if weather permits, we will, the bus drivers will crack the windows to, allow for ventilation. Like I said, if weather permits, as fall's getting a little colder, but as of right now, we can open the windows. Bus operators will be trained verbally to stop students without a mask and issue them a mask. So bus drivers will have extra masks in case there are students who don't have masks, okay? Transportation will also be prepared with sick buses for any student presenting with temperatures during the school day, requiring the student to go home. But the parents are unable to pick the student up from school, okay? So pretty much what you've heard is how, I know there were questions about the buses in the chat. So pretty much what I've shared with you is how transportation is handling buses. And so there's two major things I want you to remember. Number one, students are wearing masks. Bus drivers will supply masks if students don't have them. And also the way that they enter the bus, they enter the bus and then they start seating from the back to the front so that students are not passing by each other. Now, for any reason, parents, that this is, something that you still have issues with, then of course you always have the option to drive your child to school. And so again, if you, that's pretty much what safety is doing. That's what, transportation is doing. And if that is still a problem, then we just, I would ask you to bring your child bring your child to school each day. Thank you.
All right, I saw a couple of questions. The temperatures will be checked once the students get to the school. So again, they do have to be inside for the non-touch thermometers to work. So once they, right there at the door, come into the school, we'll be checking their temperatures. Their temperatures will not be checked on the school bus. Okay, we'll talk about what are health screening procedures. So again, like I stated, all students and employees will be required to wear a mask that covers their mouth and nose at all times. Daily cleaning protocols will be established to ensure that workplaces, workstations, equipment, and facilities are clean. Each classroom in those high common areas have hand sanitizer stations that are the non-touch. So you just put your hand under it to get the sanitizer. Students and employees will also participate in daily temperature screenings, as we stated before, and complete a daily questionnaire if they are experiencing symptoms and have been exposed to COVID-19. And we're going to talk about what we're asking parents to do prior to sending their child to school. If the results of your self-assessment determine the individual should go to work or remain at home. So based on your own self-assessment, you have to make that call. Conducting regular screenings for symptoms and ongoing self-monitoring will help reduce exposure and limit the risk of spreading the disease. So before students come to school, we're asking that all families go through this COVID-19 screening process for parents. So every morning before you send your child to school, please check for signs of illness. So that first sign is a fever over 100.4 or chills. If they have a sore throat, if they have a cough or shortness of breath, if they're experiencing diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, or abdominal pain, if they have a headache, particularly in the front, the severe headache, especially with the fever, and if there has been a recent loss of taste or smell. These may present symptoms. So we're asking for parents to make sure they're screening their children through this process every morning before sending them to school and then making that judgment. Does your child have any, so ask yourself, does your child have any illness, any of the illnesses or signs above? Were you in close contact? And close contact is defined as within 6 feet or more than 15 minutes with anyone confirmed with COVID-19. If the answer is yes to any of these questions, do not send your child to school. Instead, begin isolation of your child and contact your healthcare provider. Have you been tested for COVID-19? Only a positive test or provider diagnosis can confirm if someone has a current infection. So again, we're asking all families to first do the home screening before even sending the child to school. So if you notice your child has a fever, or they have a shortness of breath, or they have a severe headache, just make sure you're making that call that they should not come to school that particular day, and then just communicate it with us in the front office. What are the health and safety procedures for positive cases? So if a student or staff person tests positive, information is reported to HR, that's our human resources, and health services. And the employee follows the guidelines provided from their healthcare provider. The district prepares and provides communication letter to send home to parents. Phone calls are also made in follow-up for individuals identified as close contact. So again, that close contact is within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. The district, in consultation with the local boards of health, provides names of the individuals to determine to have been in close contact for case consultation. Depending on the outcome of the investigation, a determination is made as to whether a partial closure is needed or whether select individuals need to be quarantined. So based on their investigation, they'll make that call, and of course, it will be communicated to families. What is the process for tracking and tracing COVID-19 cases? So COVID-19 is a reportable disease, and confirmed cases are reported by the laboratory or healthcare provider. Atlanta Public Schools will maintain communication with local boards of health for surveillance and tracking of self-reported cases to the school district as applicable. So those cases that are confirmed, if they are attached to Atlanta Public Schools, they will be communicated. And of course, we're asking people to self-report as well. APS Comprehensive Health Services Department will monitor and maintain self-reported COVID-19 cases. All surveillance and case investigation efforts will be in collaboration with the local and state public health officials to ensure the safety of students and staff. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Georgia Department of Public Health, the Georgia Department of Education, and Board of Health will serve as resources to develop and revise school health guidance. So everything that we are communicating and doing in our schools is in connection to these agencies. So what are care rooms? We mentioned if a student should arrive and we take their temperature and it's above 100.4, we do have care rooms. Or if we recognize any of those symptoms I mentioned that you should screen for at home, students will be put in a care room. So staff or students that present symptoms of the communicable disease, a fever, a cough, runny nose during health screenings should be evaluated by the school nurse for further follow-up. If symptoms are confirmed, symptomatic individuals will be escorted to the designated area at the school, and parents will be contacted for pickup and provide further guidance by the school nurse. Schools will ensure symptomatic students safely remain under the supervision of a staff member until parents or guardians arrive. So we do have a designated area if someone does have that fever or some of those symptoms for those students to go, and then wait until we picked up from by their parents. Individuals presenting with a fever cannot return until symptom-free for 24 hours without fever-reducing medications. If a health care provider suspects COVID-19, they should remain out of the school and follow the return to school and child care guidance after COVID-19 illness or exposure. Cleaning and disinfection of the designated space will take place within 24 hours following the student's departure per Department of Health guidelines. So again, if there should those students who do have those symptoms, they will be in a separate waiting area until their parent or guardian arrives. So what happens if someone tests positive for COVID? If a student, teacher, or staff member tests positive for COVID-19 and has exposed others at the school, classrooms and office areas may need to close temporarily as students, teachers, and staff isolate and the area is clean. In consultation with the local public health department, the school district may also decide whether school closure is warranted, including the length of time closure may be necessary. So that's why it's so important that we communicated to our staff that the way we'll have students cohorted, they have to remain in that cohort. You can't have additional teachers in your room or additional students, because this is that's very important to know who was exposed and who was not. So based on that, who will quarantine? Just those in close contact, whole classes, whole grades, or whole schools? So in the event of an identified positive case of COVID-19, all close contact as identified by case investigation and in collaboration with health services must be excluded, recommended for quarantining from school until 14 days after the last contact with the case. So if this situation does arrive, those people that have been designated that they were in close contact with that person, they will have to self-quarantine for 14 days. If a close contact becomes ill and is diagnosed with COVID-19, they must remain excluded for their isolation period and until told they are no longer contagious. If cohorting was practiced so that the case would have only had contact with those in the same classroom, the other teachers, staff, and students in the school do not need to be quarantined. If classes were not cohorted, the school needs to assess everyone in the school that the case may have come in contact with and exclude them for the 14-day quarantine period. So again, we are making sure that we are cohorting, and so we can have those traces if this situation may arrive. And I'll just go through a few of the cleaning and healthy safety procedures we are implementing. Social distancing, like we've stated almost in every slide, making sure that students are 6 feet apart. We do have 6 feet markers that we'll put in the hallway, in the classroom, so it can constantly remind students they should be on that circle. Consistent and current use of masks. Schools will receive we have 2 cloth masks for every student and approximately 20 backup for disposable masks. And then teachers will receive a mask as well as a face shield. Hand hygiene, making sure we are washing our hands, students are washing their hands. Respiratory etiquette, if they're sneezing or coughing, they are following respiratory etiquette for that. Contact tracing, like I stated before, in collaboration with the local board of health. Day staff will wipe down high touch points in common areas twice daily, consistent with CDC guidelines, and student and staff restrooms will be cleaned 4 times a day. So we also have night vendors coming in to clean. They will conduct disinfecting wipe downs during night cleaning. Classrooms will be cleaned consistent with contract cleaning provisions, including a disinfected wipe down of all surfaces. And then on those Wednesdays, when students are asynchronous, misters will be deployed on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights during the break between instructional days. So that's why we can't have anyone in the building on Wednesdays, because they will deploy those misters to disinfect the building. Contract vendors are available for restorative cleaning in the event of an exposure. And again, as Mr. Gomillion stated, there's hand sanitizer stations are provided in all common areas as well as in the entrance to the classroom. And all water fountains have been taken offline. And so we will have 2 water bottle filling stations. And so we're asking all staff and students to bring their own water bottles, and they can use the water bottle filling station to fill those bottles. HVAC in our filtration system, they have increased the filtration system and ventilation in accordance with CDC and industry recommendations. And also they have increased that ventilation to begin 3 hours before we enter into the building. And then here I just have a picture of how to wear the mask, and we'll be making sure that students and staff understand this and what type of mask should be worn. This just goes through some of those extra COVID-19 cleaning that will be daily tasks. So again, like I stated, we do have 2 daily custodians. So they'll be in the exterior of the building, removing debris like normally, building duties, inspecting the building, cleaning and disinfecting all door handles and glass, all the entry points, interior and exterior, cleaning the restrooms 4 times a day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, and also disinfecting and restocking those restrooms. We also have a disinfect and complete log entry twice a daily. So beginning at the front entrance, they start to disinfect and they move throughout the entire building, including all corridors, office spaces, and common areas, disinfecting all touch points. The building and playground check, clean all interior windows located in the corridor and common areas. We will not be using the playground. When the students do go outside for a fresh air break, it will be structured. They're not running around playing tag as we all know it, but they will be doing some stretches, getting a little fresh air 6 feet apart. And then so the night crew that comes in, again, they're cleaning and disinfecting those restrooms, check for fullness, so soap dispensers, toilet paper, all of those things, cleaning the common areas, also those offices. And then on, like I stated before, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, they'll do the disinfected fog. And again, those high touch points are desks, light switches, doorknobs, computers, all those things that we touch consistently throughout the day. All right, and Mr. Gomillion, do you want to address again some transportation?
Sure, I can. Just to, okay, my apologies, I got ahead of myself. So just to reiterate what I was sharing with you about transportation, buses will not allow, but buses will be operating with masks. So students are required to have masks. No child will be allowed on the bus without a mask, and the bus driver will have masks to give to the students as they enter the bus. I saw in the chat, will bus drivers be taking temperatures? Temperature checks are not will not be given to students until they enter the school. Okay, and so then also the other major thing about buses is how they enter the bus. They will enter through the bus to the back. Okay, they fill the buses from the back all the way to the front, so that students are not passing each other by. Okay, and again, so these are the expectations for transportation. That is pretty much everything that they are doing. And again, but you always have the option of bringing your child to school. So I would encourage you to do so if for whatever reason you feel that the transportation is not satisfactory, then yes, I would encourage you to just provide your own transportation at this time.
All right, so I know there was a lot of questions that I'm just glancing at. I'm sorry, Mr. Gomillion, if you can walk through the questions in just a minute, but I do want to answer one question as far as the survey. So there were a lot of questions around if I choose to stay home, if I choose virtual, can I change? So we're asking that you commit. This commitment is up through this phase, through first semester. So first semester ends in December. So we're asking for that commitment up until that point. So whatever you choose, that's the commitment that you're choosing up until that point. And again, phase 3 has not been communicated to us, but I'm sure there'll be another survey coming out for phase 3 for parents to choose that return status. But as of right now, phase 3 has not been communicated, but the decision you make now, face-to-face or virtual, will be designated for this particular semester. And of course, we need that so we can plan instructionally for how many students will be in the classroom, what teachers will be there, and all of that information. So it is imperative that you complete the return, parent intent to return form. Mr. Gomillion, do you see any questions that we did not cover?
Okay, so I'm going to just read what I have. Some of the questions I know have been answered. Some I'm going to read, and if we've gone over it already, we can move on. But I was trying to, record the questions at the same time and participating in the discussion. So I will go over the questions. When will the second round of computers be distributed?
Okay, if you are still in need of a computer, can you put your name in the comments? I can see who asked that question, and I'll reach out to you today for that device.
And I was writing, but I think you just answered this question. If I decide, I think you just did, where a person, if they decide to do in-person learning, but then now decide to do virtual, how do they change their decision?
So this designation is through this phase 2 is throughout this semester. and I'm pretty sure another survey will come out. You're not committed to this for the entire school year. They are doing it in phases.
What are the times that the kids or specials after school will last?
So the after-school program will run like we usually run. So right after school, the students will be dismissed to the gym with kids or special, and they're running that program just like they did before until 6, I believe it's 6:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30.
What about asthmatic kids? I'm not exactly, you may want to put that, you may want to finish, whoever asked that question, if you can just expound on that a little bit for me, please. So if it's just seasonal allergies or sinuses or asthma, do they still need to stay home?
We, of course, if we're just screening for those symptoms, and so you would have to take your child to the, if let's say they come to school and they have a temperature and it has something to do with an allergy or any of those things, you would have to take your child to your healthcare provider to make sure that is the case.
Will virtual school remain in the same format with in-person learning?
So the schedule will change for virtual. So once we move into this model, October 26th, all students at home and all students at school will be on that same schedule. So that schedule runs from 8 o'clock until 2:30. So again, all students, whether they're at home or at school, will be on that same master schedule. And like we stated, we'll communicate that to you next week once we have our final numbers.
If my child is not feeling well, can they stay at home for that day and participate virtually?
That's a great question. If they are feeling up to it, they can definitely jump online and participate, because again, we'll be on the same schedule. And the great thing about Continental Colony is our grade levels every week, all the second grade teachers sit and we walk through the lessons. So everybody is doing that same thing. So yes, that's definitely a great idea, is to have your child, if they're sick and they just, aren't feeling up to coming to school, but they can still participate at home, that is fine.
All right, I think we have covered all of the questions. If parents, if there's anything that I didn't address in the chat or Dr. Vaughn has not addressed, I am still, we're looking, but as of right now, that's all the questions.
So I see 2, I think we didn't get. Can students wear face shields? If you as a parent want to provide a face shield for a child, that is fine. We are only providing masks for students. And then, so it's face-to-face just for elementary. For this particular phase, middle school and high school face-to-face, I believe they're eligible beginning November 16th. So they're still asking that you take that survey, but their face-to-face eligibility will begin November 16th, unless you are a part of those low incidence special education groups that were mentioned.
That is all of the questions at this time.
All right, again, parents, we thank you for tuning in. Again, we will post this recording to all of our social media platforms as well as Class Dojo. So please, please, please stay informed, because we know this is a different kind of school year. And so we do shoot out a lot of information through the week. So it is important that you need a Class Dojo account so you can see your teacher's landing page for that account, because we do feed a lot of information, morning announcements, all of that stuff is coming through Class Dojo. Also visit our Continental Colony Virtual Learning Hub for any of the information regarding school as well. And again, you can find out if you are not attached to Class Dojo, just please do that. Also, robocalls and robotexts. Please ensure your information is accurate in Infinite Campus. You can go into your parent portal to make sure, so you will receive those robocalls and robotexts. Follow us on Twitter at APS CCES. That's our Continental Twitter. CCES_parents. That's Ms. Lee's Twitter. And then my Twitter is CCES Panther. So please follow us. We post consistently as well. Follow us on Instagram at CCES Panthers. Follow us on Facebook at Continental Colony ATL. And the title of the page is Continental Colony ES. And Ms. Lee posts our Pantherville newsletter weekly with updates so we can make sure everybody is abreast of new changes. So like I said, this is a different kind of school year. I truly appreciate your flexibility, your perseverance, and just we are all in this together. So please, please, please stay informed. Like I said, I can't say it enough. Please make sure you have a Class Dojo account. Please make sure you have a Class Dojo account. I did see a couple of things pop up as I was closing. So Mr. Gomillion, do you see any additional?
I was trying to get clarification on a question. I had a parent who was concerned about asthmatic kids having shortness of breath, which is the same thing as COVID symptoms. And I just asked them to kind of expound on their, on what they were trying to say. But another question is, would you explain how the bathrooms will be monitored again? Would there be someone to ensure the children are properly washing their hands?
Okay, so again, the teacher's not going to go in the restroom with them, but we can ensure that the teacher is going over those procedures again, asking those questions when they come out. Did you wash your hands for 20 seconds? You know, I typically tell kids, sing the happy birthday song twice, and then you can stop washing. So we will go over those procedures with kids, but the restroom procedure is students will take classroom restroom breaks, and only one student will go in at a time. And then typically, when you're standing outside the restroom, you can essentially hear, if you hear running water, if you understand what I mean. So that question is imperative to kids to, did you wash your hands? Also, if there is an emergency where they go to the restroom, that every child will have that stop sign. So and we would train them on, if you see a stop sign, do not go in the restroom. And then when you go in the restroom, if you're by yourself, you need to put that stop sign on the door so no one else comes in. So that is our restroom procedure, but no, teachers will not go in the restrooms with students, but we will have those conversations, and I suggest parents have those conversations as well, just giving them a strategy, you know, especially our babies, sing happy birthday twice, and then you're done, to make sure they are washing their hands for 20 seconds.
You touched on this a little bit. Should asthmatic kids stay home if they're having symptoms? Should kids with allergies and sinuses stay home if they're having running noses and coughs?
My suggestion would be, like we were stating before, if you went to your healthcare provider, but they are still having those symptoms, my suggestion would be that they do stay at home, or if you have documented information from your child's doctor that this is what this is and it's not COVID, because remember, only the doctor's diagnosis can stand for that. And I see that person is asking that question. I'll give you a call just to have a more clear understanding.
I think that's all the questions right now. And parents, if you think of any more questions, please feel free to contact the school, and we'll be glad to answer any of your concerns.
Again, thank you. And this video will be posted, and you can reach out with any questions you may have as well. Have an awesome afternoon.